on this Thursday, August 21st, 2025, people. Brenden Martin in Ocala, Florida, production central of the SEC Sidelines Sports Network. Got a great show today, the Hour of Power. Brendan's right. Brought to you by the passion of college football fans all over the place. We've got Coach Matt Dean in Memphis, Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, out in Texas, talking Longhorns, Aggies, Sooners, Mizzou, the Western Flank, and the SEC. Also, in second half hour, Rich Clark, chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee, joins us. Get your questions ready. Engage. We've got had a lot of things to ask him because we know they've changed the metric on how they're going to select teams for the College Football Playoff. And question is, hey, how are you going to apply that? So we'll be having a lot of fun today. Thank you for watching. Take a picture with your cellular phone, remember, of the QR code, because we're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And look, Matt, let's get right at it. We are 1 week from today, Missouri and the University of Central Arkansas, the Bears, will play. And our friend Wes Moore from Little Rock does those games for ESPN Plus on TV, of course. And look, it's college football. I think Missouri wins that one handily. The next day, you got a lot. You got Auburn at Baylor. And then the weekend starts. LSU at Clemson, Alabama at Florida State, Tennessee and Syracuse in Atlanta. I'll be at that one at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Like, man, Florida's got Long Island tea for the opener. But you know what? Get them out of the way early. But, Matt, we're getting close. How fired up are you?
I am so fired up, guys. It's great to be on. Good to see both of you. You know, I'm extremely fired up for next weekend, but I will tell you, though it's not an SEC game, Saturday's really intriguing. I think you have two top 25 teams playing. I didn't realize that in my AP rankings I saw today, fellas, that Kansas State was ranked 17th. I've actually heard some people say that I trust that Kansas State has a shot to make a run to win the Big 12. Now, I don't know. I can't talk to you about Kansas State's returning personnel, but it's intriguing. You have a 17 versus a 22 overseas. So, and historically, you know, Iowa State was in the Big 12 championship game last year. Kansas State has always had a really solid football program. So I am fired up. I'm probably, ironically, Rob, I think for me, the biggest matchup next week is your Auburn Tigers against Baylor, because I think on the road, that'd be a huge statement win, not only for our league, but for Auburn in their quest to return to maybe, a shot at the college football playoff.
Well, it's been a great summer. The last couple of days, Auburn's racked up 7 national championships, and just recognizing them. And so it's been a lot of momentum. I'll say this. I was just on Shane Matthews' podcast right before we came on the air. And when I left, I said, 15-second answer, Shane. If you're the coach of Jackson Arnold, what do you say to him before he runs out of the tunnel onto the field in Waco next Friday against Baylor? And Shane said, like Coach Spurrier said, let's make some completions, let's have fun, and let's do what we do, get after it. And I think that as a coach, Matt, as a professional who's earned paychecks coaching, that 6 inches between your ears is the most important 6 inches on the court or the field, isn't it?
It is. And one of the things, we have our first team meeting tonight for our basketball season coming up. And one of the things we will tell our kids is last year was over. It was a fluke. We did not have a good year last year. Yeah. So if you're Baylor, you're 0-0. You're at home. It's Friday night. So those kids believe that they can play with anyone. And the same thing for Auburn. We're 0-0. We're undefeated. And kind of what you just said, Rob, just throw the ball to our guys. Yeah. The thing that we talk about religiously in college basketball, and I think it's applicable to football, is if you win the turnover battle, you can play very efficiently. You have a great chance to win a game. You do. Yeah. If you don't get, sometimes punting is not a bad thing. Just look at the University of Iowa, right?
Yeah.
So they have T-shirts made one year that said punting is winning, Brenden. That's a much different philosophy than the spread offense. But I will tell you this. Yeah. I'm really intrigued to see how Jackson Arnold is this entire year because, Oklahoma has got someone coming in that everyone is talking about. And Arnold's going to probably be in a situation where not only can he be, working with one of, let's face it, Hugh Freeze is a great play caller. And sometimes when you're working or playing for a defensive head coach, which he was doing with Venables, sometimes you don't get maybe the elite quarterback room guidance, let's say, or coaching.
Yeah.
And that's where I really think it's going to benefit him in Auburn's system. And hey, running the football is never a bad thing. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I think, and this is interesting what you just said about the quarterback position. It's asking Shane Matthews when I said, I got to ask you the same thing, how mental it is. Just go have fun. If you're tight at the beginning of the game, you're going to make dumb mistakes. And just as you get more experience, more snaps, the game slows down. Matt, LSU going on the road to Clemson. Cade Klubnik's got a lot of snaps, a lot of starts.
He does.
Talking to Dave Bartu, College Football Metrics. I talked to him a lot. And we were talking last night about these quarterbacks that don't have a lot of starts going to the NFL. They struggle. It's the same thing in college. So you got to have people around you. You like LSU's chances on the road against a Clemson team that's got a lot of guys that have been in the locker room together for 3, 4, and 5 years?
LSU's got a great roster, I think. And they have, you mentioned Klubnik. I mean, I love Garrett Nussmeier. Both those two quarterbacks will play in the league. That's what I know for sure about this game. I give a slight advantage to Clemson because they're at home, right? That's where I lean right now. But that's also a game that the loser of this game is not out of the CFP race by any means, right? And I think that's one of the things that we have to realize. I think, and I would love to know this answer. Like if let's say LSU ends up 9-3, but they lose this game.
Yeah.
Should they truly be punished when we compare LSU, if they are 9-3, to another team that's 10-2, but they lose to a Clemson team that may win the ACC and may be the 1 seed, right? Everybody's telling us that. We don't know. Yeah. I think this is one of these games they should be rewarded for playing, regardless of the outcome, unless it's not something like, unless they don't go there and they lay an egg, right? I mean, if they go out there and get blown out, that's a totally different argument. But if this is 31-28, last second field goal, everybody's talking about this game. Well, heck, you can then make the argument, well, if this game's played in the other Death Valley, we're going to win, right? So I think it's going to be that type of football game. It's, to me, the most competitive marquee game of the weekend slate. That's just the way I feel about it.
Yeah, and look, we're going to talk to Rich Clark, chairman of the College Football Playoff Committee. He'll be on in about 21 minutes. The new metric, okay? Are you going to be punished for playing a tough game like this?
Right.
And what happens if you lose to a lower level team? For example, last year, early in the season, Notre Dame lost to the Huskies from DeKalb, Illinois.
Yes, been there.
People still guessing.
A lot of core Illinois. DeKalb, Illinois, just so you know, right?
A lot of that's I-90, isn't it? Or 94 up there.
Yeah, somewhere up there, yeah. Maybe I-50.
It's I-94 or I-90, goes all the way across the country. But, that's the thing. Don't penalize people for playing a tough schedule. Kehlani Sataki, I think I got his name right, the head coach of BYU, said down in Frisco, Texas this year at Big 12 Media Days, hey, we got a 9-game conference schedule. Why not play our non-conference, one opponent from the Big 10, one from the SEC, one from the ACC? Now, some of those lower-level schools depend on those paychecks from the power schools. So that's going to be a source of, debate. But damn, Matt, Alabama goes to Florida State. Here's another one. Ty Simpson, 4th year at Alabama, a coach's son. You're going to see the payoff of persevering and staying with it this year. Nussmeier, Klubnik, and is Ty Simpson going to do the same? Because he's never really started a meaningful game yet.
Rob, I kind of look at this, and it's way early, but I look at Ty Simpson a little bit like maybe the way Greg McElroy managed the Tide in one of their early championships with Saban. I think they're going to rely on both lines of scrimmage. We've talked about this. I think they'll be able to run the football. I think they'll be able to set up play pass. They have the most, besides Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, Ryan Williams is the most exciting, electric outside receiver in the country, right?
Yeah.
What he did last year for a first-year player was tremendous. I just think Alabama rises up, minimum 10 wins, back in the college football playoff, maybe even in the SEC title game. I haven't really went through my picks yet game by game, but, I mean, everybody it seems like I'm talking to, Rob, I've been on your show a few times as a listener and not a participant. Everyone's drinking the Texas Kool-Aid, and they should. Yeah. Texas is really, really good. We cannot forget about that team in Athens. They're very, very good, and they're well coached. Kirby Smart, in my opinion, is the best college football coach in America. Yeah. So I think he likes a little bit the whole mantra of being the hunted. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the hunter instead of the hunted, you know, so like they're not talking about Georgia. I mean, they're in everyone's top 5 to 10, no doubt, but they're not talking about them like we've done in the past. And some of that goes back to, can Gunnar Stockton be the guy, right? Yeah. I love his toughness. I love his style. And I just think it's going to resonate with the style of his head coach. I really do. I think he is kind of a byproduct of Kirby, just a tough. He can run. He's physical. He's not afraid to get that extra yard, to get the first down and move the chains. So, yeah, you can tell I'm excited about this because I think early on, Rob, I can't remember a season. We've had multiple first week, second week matchups where we're like, this game's going to mean a lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's good for it. And you got 5 of them in the SEC, really good ones opening weekend. All right. So I'm with you on the strength of schedule and you know, you don't penalize a team for playing a tough game, but if you're going to do it early because you've got all season to come back. And now Missouri is another program. You know, people got them all over the place, finishing, you know, with 9 wins or 6-6. Eli Drinkowitz, the guy wins. He wins a lot, Matt. And people just they don't see Missouri. They don't go to Columbia. It's just not in their daily routine. But that Eli Drinkowitz is, I think, one of the best football coaches in this conference. And that's saying a lot. That means something.
It is, because it's the best conference in America. And have a family friend that worked for Eli last year, part of his staff, and he would definitely just confirm what you just said. You know, I think what he has done, and I think it's been done before there with Gary Pinkel, if I'm not mistaken. Early on when Missouri came to the SEC, they had some success to get to the SEC title game. They didn't win it. But honestly, they may have won it one year. I have to check my research on that. But regardless of the fact is, he has been able to always move the football with his offense. Always. Yeah. In last couple years, they've shored up the defense a little bit. That was kind of their bugaboo for a while, was not matching that on the defensive side. You know, Rob, it's interesting on the personnel standpoint. That's why I go back to Ty Simpson in Alabama. When you have a really good offense, the reason I believe it's hard to have a really good defense sometimes is if you're throwing the ball and you're going 80 yards in 4 plays in 2 minutes and 16 seconds, your defense is back on the field, Rob.
Yep.
And I think the balance, can you run the football? Can you control the line of scrimmage? And sometimes you rest your defense, you know? And that's why people don't think about this the way I do. But when you have electric offenses, they also sometimes have 3 and outs, because if you're throwing the ball more, it's a numbers thing. You're going to have a greater chance for an incompletion. When you run the ball, usually you're going to gain positive yardage, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I just think when you look at the whole thing, I think he's become more balanced. They've had some really good running backs the last 4 years. They've had some really good special teams. They've had, I think, multiple games where they've won on 50-yard plus field goals at the Horn. I don't see why Missouri can't be in the college football playoff consideration the entire year. I did read yesterday, you know, they had the Penn State transfer at quarterback, but they're going to go 2 quarterbacks early on. So, I mean, that's probably schedule induced, right? Because they're not playing some of these other games early on like other SEC opponents are. So I do see where that's coming from. I think there's a lot of programs in the country when you have a really good battle in that quarterback room. If you don't do something like that, you may have someone in the portal that you want to keep long term. And that's what's really challenging these days is you want to create competition. Competition makes you better.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you make a decision, that other person feels slighted and goes, well, there's a lot of other places I can play, coach, and I can get paid. It's really difficult right now for college coaches.
Yeah, it is. And you look at the second game from Missouri is the Kansas game, the border war. That's I mean, you talk about hate. I mean, that goes back to the Jayhawkers and the outlaw Josie Wales. That reminds me of that. And that will be an intense environment. Remember back in 07, they were two of the top 3 teams in the country.
They were.
Mark Mangione, big feller on the sidelines. And look, Missouri, go back in the 70s, Warren Powers was there. They would play anybody, kind of like what Florida State did, anytime, anywhere, any place, anybody. And just go check the graveyard of sod they took from the opponent's fields on those road wins when Bobby Bowden was building Florida State into a national power. All right, so bouncing around here, Arkansas, we talk about them. You know, Talon Green in the second year with Bobby Petrino. You look at Diego Pavia. I mean, this guy is so confident, and Vanderbilt needs that. People can criticize him all they want. What should he be saying? Well, we just hope we can crack 500. You know what? You're playing small to make other people around you feel less uncomfortable is wrong. It's a sin, in my opinion. You need to, Dave Bartu talks about this daily. Did you elevate the talent around you to a higher level, or did you take that talent and go down with it? I think Diego Pavia, his value is he makes everybody around him better. By the way, a 2-time state wrestling champion from Volcano High School in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Tough kid, great family. You see his mom at every game. Look, Vanderbilt will win more games than you want to give him credit for. And I really like Clark Lee as a coach. I mean, that dude, if he's not a head coach, he's going to be a $3 million coordinator is what he'll be.
Yeah, I think with Diego, what I learned, and I watched we've talked about this any given Saturday, that documentary on SEC football.
It's awesome.
And one of the things I think people don't understand, yes, Vanderbilt had huge wins last year. Yes, they made a bowl game. Yes, they elevated the brand. But when you have a spokesperson like your quarterback like that helps recruiting. I mean, you may attract a few more portal kids, though I don't know what their number balance is with high school and portal kids. But I just think right now Clark Lee's invested because of, his allegiance to that school. He played there. It's his place. He wants to restore it. And kudos to him. I just think I love the whole toughness thing with the head coach and the quarterback. Yeah. They are tough. They are, it'd be like WWF tag team wrestlers. They are tough-minded individuals.
Yeah.
And everyone's bought into that program. I'm going to tell you this. I don't know how many games they're going to win this year, but doggone it, it's going to be a tough out. Every time you play them, it's going to be 60 minutes of let's go, let's strap it on. It's going to be a really tough game, and I expect them to get back to a bowl game. Now, some of the statements of like, hey, we're going to get to the playoffs and we're going to, that remains to be seen because everyone's SEC schedule, in my opinion, is pretty brutal. Yeah. It's the toughest conference in the country, and it's the deepest. And every Saturday, now that Vanderbilt we're talking about, Rob, every Saturday is stuff. I even expect Mississippi State to be better. Yeah. I really do. I think, there's a good chance that at some point we're going to be talking about them in the same light that we're talking about some of these other schools. There's too much history.
Well, I think you're right. And, Vanderbilt is a less talented version of what Kirby Smart does at Georgia. Get after your ass for a full 60 minutes. If you'll do that and pay attention to the details, and also Barton Simmons is forgotten in all this. One of the recruiting guys, when he came to Vanderbilt, he was a high school teammate at MBA.
That's
with
right.
Clark Lee, an all Ivy League safety at Yale. That's the big factor. But you know what? Get after their ass for 60 minutes. And if you go to overtime, so be it. But you're right. Top to bottom, I think the SEC, as they say down in South Texas, is stronger than 50 acres of fresh cut onions. How about that? How about Ken Capps is back, Football Writers Association of America. Got to love this guy taking his mom You are super dad, super son, one of the best people out there. Glad having you back. He goes on a siesta, an extended siesta. It clears his mind. I think he goes to his spiritual guru, hangs out with the Bhagwan in Oregon near our good friend Dave Bartu. But Ken, we are 168 hours away from the start of college football season. Is there any interest in college football in the great state of Texas? I asked
Oh
Tom.
oh my gosh, come on, man. I mean, as soon as the University of Texas, you know, lost that game to Ohio State,
Yeah.
they were already looking. Everybody in this state was already looking forward to this weekend, and of course, August 30th, when Texas takes on Ohio State again up in Columbus. And of course, high school football is also kicking off here in the state of Texas. 4,000 high schools here in the state of Texas. And, everybody's going to be playing football here pretty soon. And of course, it's 100 degrees here just about every day still with the heat index. And so it's perfect. It's perfect football season here in Texas.
What's not to like when you drive in across that big lake coming into Dallas? Is that Rockwall High School that has that big stadium that you see?
Yeah, Rockwall High School, Lake Ray Hubbard, and it's like driving across the Pacific Ocean,
Yeah.
and then you're in the Metroplex,
There we go.
So I know how
Love
much you like I know how much you like the Metroplex, Rob.
I love it. Look, Matt Dean and I have been talking, and before Rich Clark joins us from the head of the College Football Playoff Committee, let's talk some Texas football. Hook 'em. Jimmy McDavid watching from his deer stand right now. I never know where McDavid is. He loves cutting horses. I mean, hey, Taylor Sheridan, watch out. Here comes Jimmy Mac Davis. Let's talk Texas. Let's talk what's that quarterback's name, Matt? Arch Manning. No, how fired up are the Texas fans? You told me something. It was very fortuitous, kind of a harbinger of things to come last year. You said Texas fans, and Dave Cody said the same thing. He said they'll get up a couple of times a year at maximum effort, and they're going to have to understand the SEC, you got to do that every home game. I don't care. 102,000 at DKR down on the 40 acres. I've been to games out there. That is an incredible atmosphere. How much fun are the Texas fans having being in the SEC?
Oh man, having so much fun. And if you recall, a lot of the folks in the SEC were not too thrilled about Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC, and they damn sure weren't rooting for Texas coming in for so Oklahoma, well, okay, but Texas for sure. And then Texas comes in last year, and darn near wins the whole thing, and and comes in, almost wins the whole thing, then goes as far as they did in the college football playoffs, and now it's all Arch Manning all the time down here, and look at it this way. Texas always sells out its season tickets. There was just an announcement yesterday that Texas has sold out every single solitary ticket in that 102,000 seat stadium for the entire year. So whether it's Sam Houston State, whether it's San Jose State, whether it's Texas A&M, every single solitary ticket is sold out. That's how fired up Texas fans are. So if you're trying to buy a ticket, you're going to have to find it on SeatGeek, or your brother-in-law is going to have to give you one, because normally there are a few, random tickets floating around out there. Not this year. It's going to be all Arch Manning all the time. And, Texas does have some holes to fill on the offensive line, which is going to be interesting to see how that's going to work out. But everything else is stacked and loaded. And of course, the defense, is ranked number 1 in the country. And that's going to be really hard to penetrate. In fact, there was a scrimmage the other day, the ones on the ones, and Arch and crew could not move the ball on the defense, and everybody was getting so upset about that. Well, when you're playing against the number one defense in the country, I think that's a good sign. And I was looking there the other day too at Ohio State, and they're going to be starting a redshirt freshman. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to work out. Of course, that's in the shoe, and so there's going to be 102,000 people or so, rooting against the Horns. But I think it's just going to be such an interesting matchup, and what a way to really, really start the year. And then, of course, that's going to be the start of Lee Corso's final year on the set. So, I mean, what a day to start. I can't wait till August 30th myself.
Yeah, Matt Dean jumping here with Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America, in his vehicle in somewhere in the Metroplex.
That's right.
Where 18 million people live.
Ken, it's a pleasure to be on with you. One of the things that you said, I've kind of said several times the last few weeks. I think what America doesn't realize is how good Texas is defensively. I mean, I know we have the numbers, you just back it up, but I think that's one of the reasons I'm really confident they go into Ohio State and win, because I just think that defense travels. I think they're going to be ready to roll. Like you mentioned, Rob, first-time start for this quarterback for Ohio State. I know it's a difficult environment. We know Ohio State returns a lot of great players as well. I know Caleb Downs, their safety corner, is one of the best players in the country. But I just think Texas is still going to be able to run the football. You got Arch. You're going to be able to get some big stops. I think that game is just, to me, it's going to epitomize what it's going to be for Texas all year. On the road in the SEC, that's where sometimes the challenges present themselves. But because you have an elite defense and you have an elite quarterback that will get better every game, I just think Texas, in my mind, is the clear-cut one and preseason favorite for the SEC because of the balance that Sark's created with some recruiting classes. And now it just shows. And I think, I believe it's Anthony Hill Jr., one of the best players in the country on that side of the ball too, So I just think there's so many players and they've recruited so well. And you can make an argument they were one play away from getting the finals. And I think if they beat Ohio State, they win the national championship last year. I think you can make the argument this time they get over the hump and they win the national championship. That's how much I'm buying Texas stock.
Well, wow, that's pretty impressive. Coming from somebody outside the state of Texas.
Yeah.
But but that's the whole point. One play away, and it was a turnover.
That's
okay.
Right.
And Jeremiah Smith got one catch last year in that game, and Texas still lost. And so that's the way I view this game. And Texas also has a new kicker this year. Bert Auburn, still one of the most accurate kickers in Texas history. He got booted off the 40 acres, and now he's at Auburn this year. Because missing those kicks last year, inexcusable. So, I mean, I'm not as sold yet, going up to the shoe in the very first game of the season, playing somebody you lost to not get into the finals last year. I totally agree with you, though. If Texas had won that game, Texas would have won the national championship. But, it's still all about the kicking game and special teams. It's still all about turnovers, and it is going to be about the defense.
Okay, let's bring in and I want to get it correct. Our next guest, I'm honored to have him. I met him last year in Dallas, Lieutenant General Rich Clark. He retired as superintendent of the United States Air Force Academy. God love you for your service. You played 4 years of football at the Air Force Academy. My good friend Tim Horton's out there coaching running backs. You get people fired up. You exude confidence. But you were the executive director of the CFP, not the chairman. We got Ken Capps, Football Writers Association of America in Dallas, Coach Matt Dean in Memphis over at Rhodes College, and, of course, executive producer Brenden Martin, the best in the world. First off, thanks more than you know for sharing your time with us. Let's just talk about what you've been doing this summer to get ready for the greatest game on turf, college football. Oh, you're muted. Okay. What's up? Let's see. Uh-oh. We got the hit. It's unmute that. Yeah, here we go. Hopefully he'll get that worked out. All right. But we'll get that worked out. But I can't imagine what goes on in that building out in Dallas, Ken and Matt, when those guys get together, to start crunching numbers on all the different teams that are playing college football. And you got it worked out.
I think so. Can you hear me?
There you go. Yeah.
There he is.
Sorry about that.
Hey,
Rich.
I
hey,
think
you should have seen me this.
You think I could work out a microphone, but here we go.
All right. I'm telling you what, General Clark, Rich Clark, Executive Director of the College Football Playoff Committee. What have you been doing this summer to get ready for the football season? Because, man, I got a lot of people watching, a lot of questions for you. You may have the best job, yet the most highly scrutinized job in the free world.
Yeah, well, I will say it is an amazing job, and I love being a part of this team here at the CFP. It's pretty highly scrutinized, though, but college football is great because of that, right? Because people are able to talk about it like you guys do every day and really look at something that our country is passionate about. So I love being a part of it. But this summer, we've been working a lot on format for the future. We've been working on our media contracts. We work on preparing for the next round of playoff games. And we've also been working on our selection committee process to really make sure that we're in a good place to start picking those best 25 teams in the country and getting them ready to go into the playoffs. So it's been a lot of work this summer to get ready, especially after seeing last year. Last year, we knew that we weren't going to get it 100% right, and we knew that with 100% certainty. But we tried to make the improvements that we could, and you saw how we've gone from ranking or from seeding, how we reseeded last year, the conference champions. We're not doing that this year. It's going to be seeded based on ranking. But those are the kinds of changes that we knew we needed to make this year to make it even better. And we've just been working on all of that to bring this to the next level. And I'm really excited about the upcoming playoff.
Hey, one question before I get Matt and Ken involved is, we understand there's been a change to the metric on how you select the teams. How are you going to apply that metric to strength of schedule and what that's worth and all? Because I asked you, do you get to go to a lot of games? And you said, early on, yeah, but once the voting starts, we're locked down. You live in Dallas, but you live in that room all the time at that point, it seems like.
That's right. Our headquarters is in Irving, Texas, but we bring the committee in starting about week 10-ish, and then we start doing the ranking. But up till that, I try to go to the games and see as many as I can. Okay. But to your question, we looked at the metrics very carefully this year. And some of the things that we realized we needed to make adjustments on were based on the changing landscape of college football. The way that the conferences are structured now, the way that you see I'll say the lay down of strength within a conference, because when these metrics were done, it was 10 years ago and the landscape looked totally different. We've evolved it somewhat over the years, but now we really wanted to take a deep dive into it. So we looked at strength of schedule first. And that's obviously an important one, because when you're judging teams from different conferences that play different schedules, it's really hard to do. But we want to reward the best teams in college football. So schedule strength really matters. And when those teams get into the playoff, they're going to be playing very strong teams. So we want to make sure that we're picking teams that have demonstrated that success against the toughest schedules. So that's one of the things that we look hard at. The other one, we looked at a new metric called strength of record that really is a measure of a team's resume. Okay. What kinds of wins did they have? Were they great wins? Were they average wins? Or were they just okay wins? And what kind of losses did they have? I mean, if you lose to a really great team, that's not the same as losing to a team that's maybe at the lower end of the spectrum. Yeah. So we wanted to give the committee a way to do that in a quantitative numbers way rather than the discussion, because they had that discussion and they do that in the room, but we wanted to give them a tool to help. Now, it's not the end all be all by any stretch, because data is just a tool. We need the human element to be a part of this whole assessment of teams. So we're giving them metric tools, data tools, but we still need the human eyeballs. We need them to watch those games, understand what's happening on the field, those things that math can't determine. We need the committee members to do that. And they watch like 12 to 18 games in a weekend, but they bring that to bear and they make good decisions. I'm really proud of the way that the selection committee operates.
I mean, for a man, you can't get any better. Honey, I've got to go. I've got to watch 18 football games.
I use that every weekend. Honey, I'm working. I'm sorry. I can't go have tea this weekend, but I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, I love it. Matt Dean, jump in here, and then we'll get Ken involved with Rich Clark, Executive Director of the College Football Playoff Committee from Irving, which, by the way, Ken, is in the Metroplex. I love it.
Sure is.
Hey, Rich, it's a pleasure to have you on and have a chance to speak with you, sir.
Thanks, Matt.
One of my thoughts are, last year I was at the Rose Bowl. My son works for Oregon football, so one of the things that I think you've done this year with the reseeding, I think really makes a lot of sense, because you kind of said it. Year one, it wasn't going to be perfect, right? I think the one thing we'd all agree on, though, is didn't matter what you seeded Ohio State last year. They were going to win the national championship. They were so hot. They played so well. And I just think, this year with that in mind, you just mentioned it. We had some great week one matchups where I'll just throw it out here. LSU, Clemson. Let's say Clemson wins the ACC and wins a close game against LSU. Yeah. LSU plays a really tough SEC schedule and goes 9-3. From what I'm hearing, that kind of resume could end up possibly having one of our first 3 lost teams in the college football playoffs. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it looks like the strength of record, which you're talking about, if you lose a close game on the road to a team that's clearly a top 5 team, that's not necessarily a negative, is it?
Yeah, that's a great point. And you hit it on the head. If you lose that game, whereas before losing a game might have been something that would take away points from you, right? And you would lose those points. Now it will not be held against a team for losing a game like that, and we understand that. And so that's one of the main things that we were getting after with this new metric that we're going to use. But I'll be honest with you, the committee did that to a point last year. Right. I mean, they actually would have those discussions. They would go, you know what, that's a loss, but that's a good loss. Or that, you lose to, let's say, NIU. That's a bad loss. And, it's different, right? Yeah. But you can recover from a loss, but you have less to recover from if it's a really good loss, because you really didn't lose any points or lose any ground by that. And that gives teams the confidence to go out and play tough schedules, play the best football that you can and the best football that you can be successful at. So that's what we're trying to get after.
Ken?
Thank you.
Well, first of all, General, it's so nice to visit with you again. And I do want to point this out to our audience and to Rob. Sir, when I first met you last year, I led with telling you that my dad had served in the Army Air Corps and in the Air Force in World War II in Korea. And you were so generous and respectful in talking to me about that. And you just don't know how much that meant to me. And so I just thank you so much. I've told so many people about that. And so just thank you so much again for just honoring my dad in that way. That just really meant a lot to me. So thank you so much. But I just
want to say it was from the heart, because people like your dad are the people that laid the foundation for our country, for our Air Force. And I meant every word of it. And especially that generation of heroes, ultimate respect. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
And I knew it was from the heart. And I walked around on cloud 9 all day because you were just so sincere about it. That's the word, sincere. But my question is it still going to be with these new metrics? If you lose late, is that still going to count against you?
It won't count against the team to lose late. I mean, when they lose, that's not something that the metric takes into account. It doesn't do that. But here's what I will say, that as the season goes on, a strength of schedule metric evolves with the season, right? So let's say you played a team and you lost to them early in the season and they were number 25, right, early in the season. But as the season goes on and they evolve and now they're number 5 and you lose to them, there's even less penalty losing to them later in the season because they're a stronger team. Their metrics indicate that, and it is held less against you even to lose to a stronger team.
Okay.
So it could be a little bit different, but that's not really a factor of do you lose late or do you lose early in the season. I will say, though, human nature still falls into this whole thing. And, when the rankings are happening, when you lose right there, depending on what that loss is like, it's fresh in someone's mind that you just lost a game. Now, whether it's a good loss or a bad loss, that does matter. But I'll say that the metric does not take into account when in the season that you lose. It only takes into account how strong that team is when you lose to them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Some questions from viewers real quick. Scott Trout, can teams gain rankings, I know, by running up scores? I mean, I remember, Rich, you and I, we're all the same age. Nebraska used to beat everybody 77-6. And Tom Osborne would be going, well, I was concerned about the letdown of giving up the 2 field goals late in the fourth quarter. But what about that? I mean, in your opinion?
Yeah, so within our metrics, there is a certain amount of credit that's given for the margin of victory, but it's capped. So, I think it's around maybe 20, 21, 24 points, something like that. And it's within the algorithm of the metrics that it tells that. And that's a little bit deeper into the math than I can go. I'm just a knuckle dragger here.
You're a lieutenant general in the Air Force. I think you're highly qualified. Come on.
But what I'll say is that it's capped.
Yeah.
As far as the considerations that it's given within our data structure.
Yeah.
You can run it up to 70 points, but that's not doing you any better than if you beat a team by 21 points.
Okay.
Margin of victory does matter, though, and I think we all see that. If a team loses by 1 point or if they lose by 21 points, there's a difference there. But after 21 points, you start to lose some of that power of that margin of victory.
Hey, another quick one before we go back to Matt. What do you think about the Big Ten Commissioner Petitti floating the 28 or more team playoff? And I think Eli Drinkowitz said it in Atlanta when we were there at Media Days just a few weeks ago.
So what I like about this is that we're putting everything on the table.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave an idea off the table for what this format should look like. And when the commissioners are discussing it, there's not a bad idea. They just need every idea on the table, because later on, I don't want us to look back and go, we should have thought of this or we should have looked at that idea. Put it on the table and let's talk about it. Let's look at the pros and the cons of it. What are the costs of doing that and what are the benefits of it? And let the commissioners beat it up a little bit and decide what really is our best format that we can go with. And some people are like, oh my gosh, 24 teams, that's insane. Well, it's not insane. It is doable. It's something that we can do. And it's a philosophical difference in how we look at the playoff for sure. But the commissioners really need every idea on the table, and we're going to look at it. And it's a new idea. It's something that we're just starting to look at, but we will look at it.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah, Rich, I agree with your last statement. It's not insane to think 24. And really, when you look at 12, you can make the argument that 12 is the same as 16, right? Because the reality is, if you took away the buys, you have a 16-game model really in place, and that's not really a stretch. The thing I'm concerned about, when you start losing, when you go a higher number, you potentially lose the conference championship games. And then when we get to like an NFL game length schedule for these young men, is that a concern moving forward for you that we're playing too much football? And maybe we have to chip away at a regular season game if we want to extend the postseason. And everything's related to money, Rich, so I'm sure that's a discussion as well.
Sure. Yeah, that's exactly the way we have to look at it, though. There's going to be some costs and some benefits to every option that we look at. And adding more games to the season is definitely one of the costs, because we don't want to put these athletes through something that's going to be detrimental to their health their safety, their education. We have to consider and remember that they are student athletes. So that is definitely a consideration. And it depends on how it gets structured. If we were to go to a format like that, we would really need to look at where do we play those games?
Right.
Do we add a weekend? Do we take away the conference championships? But all of those things have to be put on the table so we can have a good discussion about it. And frankly, I'm glad he did it now, and that that we're putting it there while we still have some time to talk about this.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Well, y'all are talking about something that has always concerned me. And, we've talked about it on this show. No matter how many teams you have, if you have 16 teams, the 17th team is always going to be mad. If you have 24 teams, the 25th team is always going to be mad, and then you're right. Where do you play those games? As an example, like last year when Penn State played SMU, Penn State obviously had a really great advantage because it's 20 below or whatever it was. So do you play that more at a neutral site, or because Penn State was higher ranked, they deserve to play at home, so all these different things come into play. But when does it become too many games for a college athlete, and you really have to start worrying about that injury factor? And then another thing, and I know several coaches have brought this up, I don't want to lose the conference championship game, but like I'd said earlier about losing late, there are some coaches out there that feel if they lose the conference championship game, then that's going to lower their seed in the playoffs.
You brought up a whole lot of good points there. We can talk for 45 minutes just on what you just said. So let me rewind it. You talk about in a 12-team playoff, 13, 14, 15 are going to be mad. In a 16, there's going to be some folks that get left out. But you also hit on a point. First, that's very true. But you also hit on a point in a 12-team playoff. If you're number 5 instead of number 4, you don't get the bye. So number 5 might be a little bit upset. If you're number 9 instead of number 8, you don't get the home field advantage for the first round. So there's a lot of sort of break points within the playoff that teams are vying for. So their ranking is very important. And that's the nature of the game, though. It's a game of inches, and we've said that for decades, for a century.
Yep.
But it matters in this playoff where teams are ranked and how they get seeded, and their numbers matter. So that's a key point. And you definitely hit it on the head about safety, the well-being of the student athletes, and that is something that the commissioners talk about very directly in the room when they're looking at all of these different options and how we're going to play. It's important, and if they don't keep that in mind, then they're sort of losing sight of the big picture. But they don't, and they make sure that that's always forefront in their thoughts. I'll also say that when the conference championship games happen, the committee really does value 2 teams playing in a conference champion. You saw SMU, right?
Yeah.
They went in that game. They looked like they were just going to get smoked, and they didn't.
Right.
Back, and they fought back, and the committee valued that. They said, listen, at least they played in a championship game, and they showed well, and they didn't lose much ground from the committee's eyes in losing that game. So conference championship games are important. And back to our first part of our discussion today, they're losing to a great team. If you lose in a conference championship, you're losing to a great team. So that is not going to give you a huge negative sort of result in the committee's eyes. You're losing to a great team. So that's a minimal loss effort for you in a conference championship.
All right, Rich, another question. Are we, this is one I look at, are we in danger of making college football potentially a regional sport versus national? Because we're all the same age. You remember in the 70s, Keith Dunham, the ESPN college football historian, loved to get him on this show, called it the television aristocracy in the 70s. And You played football at the Air Force Academy. I remember that agreement they had with the Liberty Bowl. I've been to 37 Liberty Bowls. I saw Air Force beat Ohio State one time, and that was awesome.
That was a good
Tim Horton calls the training complex for football at Air Force Academy the submarine, and you know what I'm talking about. But I'm just curious how y'all see that, because I think college football is great for the morale of this country. University of Wyoming, you go out there and play at 7,200 feet. That can tear you up. They got the high altitude performance center there, but it matters everywhere, because I talked pheasant hunting for years in Iowa, walking in the switchgrass 15 miles a day. Those people up there go, we watch every SEC football game on tape delay. I love college football. I love it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Too much is never enough.
Yeah, so I don't go wading in the ponds. I'm not a hunter. You went another level there,
Yeah.
But I am with you. I have loved college football my entire life since I was a little kid.
Yeah,
played it, always have loved it, and I've loved it for the reasons that I think most people do. That it just brings a different level of passion to the game, and that's what really makes it great, and we want to hold on to that. As far as regionalizing it, that is a possibility, but I do think that the playoff helps us to keep it a national event, because teams know that they need to play tough out of conference games. I hope they realize that, or games that are tough relative to them, and not just pick games that they know that they can go out and walk all over a team, but to have a competitive schedule, not overly competitive, but competitive enough. And they need to branch out and spread out. But once the playoff happens, it really does, even if it did start to get a little bit regionalized, once the playoff starts, it opens it right back up again. And now we're seeing matchups from teams wherever they come from. It's just based on how good a football that they played all season. So I first hope we don't become sort of stovepiped into our regions, but I do think that the playoff will help us to not let that happen.
Yeah, and again, the game, as we get closer to the game, Ken and Matt and Rich and Brenden knows this too. It's like an option toward expiration date. We're not talking about the portal and NIL, and you get a free sack full of crystals, a steamer pack from me if we can talk. And we haven't talked about it. It's getting Tony Barnhart's right. Not even the adults can screw it up. And we love this game, and it's the controversy and that gets everybody so excited. Like, I'm married to a volunteer for life. Oldest daughter now graduated from Alabama. Everybody else in my family is Auburn. But Tim Horton and I talk a lot and text a lot. I follow Air Force Academy. Wherever I know someone, I follow them. And I love this part of it. And I know you got to get going. You got a busy day, but I think I want to speak on behalf of what Ken said and everybody, and my brother-in-law and you and I, we're all the same age. Kurt, United States Marine Corps, 26 years, 7 deployments from Somalia to Fallujah to Afghanistan. And I met him Tuesday, and I said, there's 2 stickers people put on their windows of their cars or trucks, where they went to college and what branch of the service that they served in. So everybody, on behalf of all of us, thank you, and God bless you for what you do, because when you walk in a room, you exude confidence. There is nothing like a general walking into a room, and they couldn't have picked a better man to do what you do, because you're judicious, you're honest, and your honor is dearer than your life. You live by a great code, and I hope you'll come back on and join us again in the future.
Man, I hope my mom listened to this. I appreciate that. Not deserved for sure, because there's so many people out there that have served, and I love that aspect of it, that I was working with other people like-minded that just wanted to do great things for our country. But I will tell you, being in college football is such a great transition for me, because it's about something bigger than me. It's about something bigger than all of us. It's something that our country loves. And to be honest, I'd rather be talking about football than to be talking about war any day.
Yeah,
but,
that's right.
But the fact that we're all involved in something that is developing young people to go out and do great things in our country, and we get to be a part of that, is awesome. And I thank you guys for what you do for college football to keep our fans engaged and interested and understanding what's going on. I just love being a part of the enterprise. So thank you for having me today, but thanks for honoring me so much with your comments.
Well, absolutely. And Joel Soto, Brett Daniels, Mr. Bill Hancock, the people that are out there with you, cannot thank y'all. Thanks more than you know. We'll do it again soon. Have a great week, Coach. I mean, General.
Oh, I love that. Coach, call me Coach.
I'm starting to call you Coach. All right, take care.
Guys. All right.
Appreciate it very much. All right, guys. That was fun, man.
Wow. Yeah.
Are we?
Wow.
Are y'all? Wow. And people exude confidence. Like when Buddy Martin says to me, "That was a good job," or Coach Max Howell, who watches every day, says, "Hey, great job. Make sure you talk about Texas and Texas A&M and Missouri." I love being coached. I love learning from people, and what I love more than anything is when you have someone. I get chills thinking about what people like Rich Clark have gone through in their 38 years United States Air Force. Wow, what an honor. And having y'all's questions were phenomenal. Executive producer Brenden Martin can't get any better. Hey, get out to Landers before we go, guys. Get out to Landers Ford, Poplar, and Houston Levy. Open Monday through, as they say in the Deep South, Saturday. I think there's a T in there somewhere. Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Closed on Sunday. The day means more than the dollar. They've got $500 off for SEC Sidelines audience members. Brad Bellamy, the general manager, whatever kind of vehicle you're looking for, nobody will work harder to get you behind the wheel and driving off that lot. I've seen them go half an hour and sometimes 8 hours to get her done. All right, lights out gummies. Dave Bartu watching right now in the mountains, somewhere north of Portland, Oregon. Doesn't get much better than that. Look, they've got energy, chill, and lights out. I'm using them. I'm telling you. A lot of us as adults, we sleep maybe 4 or 5 good hours. You'll get 8 hours of sleep. The first guy they tried these gummies out on, remember a guy that played football for the Bears, Mike Singletary, crazy eyes? He said, I hadn't slept like that since I was 9 years old. One of my heroes. Yeah, I love it. Lights out gummies, 25% off. Use code SIDELINES at checkout. You get 25% off. Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix. Hey, how you fight is how you live. Rumble Boxing, Union and McLean, Midtown Memphis. Get after it. Open up every morning of the week, 5:30 in the morning. 48 people in those classes. Boxing, weightlifting, 45-minute classes. It's the equivalent, in my opinion, as a land swim. It's that great of a workout. And the great folks at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Ken, these boots here are so good looking. You'd wear them on the streets of Texas in Lampasas.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
You damn right. Out there in Waco. Or you could be down in Harlingen in the Valley. Look, they're open on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m., 6 p.m. Charles Hall, his wife Laura, some of the best people you'll ever meet. J.M. Huffman, Squidward, Lydia, Raven Carpenter. They've got men's and women's clothing. Barber, Filson, STS. They got all the Filson luggage out there. They've got, again, over 7,000 pairs of boots. Go to the Hewlett and Dunn on Instagram, Boot of the Week. And the stuff is coming in for the fall every day. Hard to believe when it's 197 degrees with the wind chill, as David Letterman used to say to Paul Schaefer. How hot is it? Woo, it's hot. Boy, is it hot. Woo, it's hot. It's hot. So look, do yourself a favor. Go out and find ways to help people. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Every day you have an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. Thanks, everybody, for watching this show. For Executive Producer Brenden Martin, the best in the world, and our audience, we cannot thank you enough. Watch this channel as much as you can. See you tomorrow. Good night, John Boy.